Redpanda helps companies extract value out of every single item that is going through their network. As an example, in NYSE, if you see a trade or if you see a symbol, being less than $5 and you want to buy it, right? Redpanda is the technology that enables companies that are buying or trading stock to buy the stock actually at the time that is happening, or at the time you have a bunch of indicators. And so now compare that with the technology that we've had for the last 10 years, which is you take all of this data, you put it at rest in a database, and then you query every at midnight, right? And so the fundamental transition in the market is people are trying to transition away from these data at rest batch systems into this real time, taking advantage of every single data item that's going through their network.
Anand, now based on your experience with big data, where do you see the value addition of Kafka streaming when it comes to fintech and the NYSE?
So at NYSE, as you know, we are the center of capital markets here, and our complexity is ever increasing, and we have a very high requirement for messaging throughput systems, And streaming is the fundamental basic building block for our pillar technology platform that is powering all our exchanges right now and messaging platforms. Kafka streaming is interesting because it provides the reliability, replay capabilities, and partitioning, so it became quite famous. Why Redpanda? That's interesting. C and C++ is the fundamental basic building block for low latency and high efficiency systems, and basically it removes all the suboptimal part of it, and you can control a lot of things with that. Alex at Redpanda, he built this system using C++, so that is something we identify with, and makes it interesting choice. And their support for Kafka protocol along with that makes it a unique and exceptional combination, So that in a long answer, that's basically the gist of it.
Like the beauty of sort of like what Anand is doing here is that by adopting this common interface called the Kafka API, then you now have this huge ecosystem that you could leverage at your fingertips, right? Mm-hmm. And so what Redpanda did is like, hey, we want to be the best broker, kind of a technical term, but what it gives the end users, like Anand, when you're thinking about your architectures, you can leverage all of these new technologies, whether you want to, leverage technology companies like ClickHouse or, ML platforms like TensorFlow, or all of these new advances in technology without doing a lot of the work, because this community of developers has been building technology for over the last decade on that. And so, as an architect, it's very free, and you're like, let me plug in this technology, it's called Redpanda here, and then all of a sudden I can build this portfolio of products relatively easily, right? It kind of becomes a game of Lego where you start to stitch these things together and deliver an inordinate amount of value for the end users. But to the architects, it's free, and you're like, it's easy to reason about, and then you can just leverage this huge ecosystem.
Exactly. How does it impact the everyday user?
So just to give an example, right, we have a workload which is batch file delivery mode. So you break the files into small pieces, you deliver to AWS S3, and from that it is loaded to Snowflake. There is general inefficiency when the number of messages or the file size increases, right? So if we replace that with a streaming platform like Redpanda, it removes all the inefficiencies which are there, right? Why does it matter? Because the messaging volume has skyrocketed during pandemic. We operate platforms at NYSE doing hundreds of billions of messages every single day. If we could deliver all these messages with lower latency, meaning not being delayed, so the end users can definitely benefit from that, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing is that it is used for big data analytics product, which Alex was covering. What it means is that people are able to stream directly into dashboard, able to join different data sources. So that makes it an interesting combination.
But just to expand on what Anand said, really cost and complexity has been classically the Achilles heel of data streaming. And so, to the average Joe, for example, is if you order a DoorDash or something like that, you see the packages, being picked up by the restaurant and moving along the lines and taking a ride on this particular street. And then it gets home and your pregnant wife is like, yes, finally the food is here. And so, like those kind of real-time experiences, they're really transitively, they're powered by technology that looks like Redpanda, right? And so in a different context is NYSE literally powering the capital markets of the world, and so you have to be resilient. And the reason people haven't classically adopted this technology has been so complicated for people to use, right? With kind of alternative competitors out there. We're not the first company to ever build this, right? We're just the first company to make it super easy to use and frankly cost effective.
Anand, you said that the NYSE works with technology startups when it comes to innovative solutions and feedback. Can you elaborate on this?
So we are at a unique place with our capital market teams. We have been interacting with a lot of interesting technology startup companies, and while interacting with them, we are able to identify, whatever feedback they need, and we are able to help them with that. But it also gives us a unique opportunity to have different ideas and assimilate them, come up with new product and business ideas, So that is a perfect opportunity for us, and also along the way we are helping these companies to grow, and make impact to the lives of other people, make money here.
Alex, how are you helping other companies when it comes to cost and complexity?
In Q3 last year, we really saw this market change where the Fortune 2000s were now hurting. They're like, hey, I need to drive efficiencies of the product. I think the market changed away from driving growth at all costs into being more operationally efficient, right? Like driving your gross margin above 75% gross margin, right? And so this is really the core of where Redpanda comes in, helping the majority of the companies. And so if anyone has a Kafka API deployment and they would like to cut their bill in half, I think we should have a conversation. And so that's a big part. And now what's been challenging, especially with the layoffs, is that now you have smaller teams, largely dealing with the same amount of data volumes. It's not like, the data volumes became less because, due to unfortunate reduction in workforce, your data size sort of disappeared. That's not the case. And so you have the small teams having to do a lot more. And so that's the other side, right? That's the complexity front. It's like, can we empower these small teams of 2, 3, sometimes even 4 people for relatively large deployments, manage these huge data volumes? And so those are the core 2 camps, either empowering small teams or helping people save money.
Well, you're making an impact in the world every day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.